I didn't wear a shirt because I didn't know that it would be warm in here.
Welcome to another exciting edition of American Warrior Radio, the place to be for news, notes, interviews, and current events for all issues military and veteran related. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place. American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL, sponsored as always by AVET Project. Folks, this program is all about supporting our troops and their families, both past and present. So please get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee, and maybe a pencil or paper to jot down a note or two, because we're always efforting to bring you important information that you can use and share with others. With that said, let's roll down the runway and get this show off the ground. As you all know, my name is Garen Cohn. I'm an Air Force veteran, a retired legal advocate for veterans, and founder of AVET Project, but I never fly through the airwaves alone.
Good morning. I'm Glenn McGuffey, manager of your Brevard County Veteran Services team, and I'm a retired Air Force person, so we got two blue suiters rolling down the runway at you today, and we're going to bring you, as usual, a whole bunch of great information about events in the local area, veterans information, about benefits, and I'm even going to follow up with something I promised you from the last show. So let's kick it off here, Garen.
How about we start the program with a bosun's call? On the line we have your commander of the Coast Guard Station, Port Canaveral, Commander B. Perry. Can you hear us, Commander? And we're having a little technical. Commander, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you so much for joining us today on American Warrior Radio, sir. I guess you've got some news to share with all the folks and listeners about what's happening with our Coast Guard.
I tell you what, we've been pretty busy for the month of February. We've conducted well over 50 boat movements and 40-some recreational safety boardings, 4 naval escorts, some cruise ship escorts, condition of entry boardings, rocket patrol. It's been a pretty busy February for us.
Speaking of rocket patrol, tell me about the events the other day. Everything go off without a hitch?
Everything went fine. Yeah, we'd gotten out there. I was actually on the boat patrolling, and everything went pretty smooth. It was a little rough out there. It was probably about 4 to 6 foot on the other side of the Cape, but everybody paid attention, listened up on the radio, and went off without a glitch as far as the Coast Guard side. Went pretty well.
And yeah, aside from the rocket, apparently they had some issue with the thrusters or something like that. When you go to patrol the area and facilitate or help put one of these launches together, what kind of resources do you put out on the water, and how many folks are usually out there?
Usually what we do is we put our 45-foot response boat out there, and we have also Coast Guard members in the command center with the Air Force who coordinate with the 2 helicopters the Air Force provide, and we start a couple hours before the launch usually, get out there and start scanning the security or the safety zone area, making sure there's no traffic, no boats in the area, and we start doing broadcasts from Jacksonville all the way south over our high site radios to let the mariners know that that area will be live at a certain time, and passage is going to be stopped for the event.
And you communicate on what radio frequency with those messages?
We communicate on the Marine Band radio, the VHF radio. We pass it over channel 16 as the hailing and distress frequency. Then the mariners usually transfer to 22, channel 22 alpha usually to pass information if they have any direct questions that they're asking about. But the coordination we have with the Air Force is outstanding. Like I said, we have a couple of Coast Guard members sitting in the operations center getting direct word from the Air Force. They actually have cameras and all kinds of stuff out there to help us find small contacts, and us, the guys on the surface craft, we usually go run down anything they see on radar or cameras, and make make sure it's going to get out of the zone in time for the launch.
That's outstanding. About how big an area is that, Commander?
Well, it depends on which rocket. The rockets vary, and then therefore the zones that we would cover um, vary because of the trajectory of whatever the window is. So it changes, launch to launch. But there is on a nautical chart off the coast, off the Cape there is a range area. It's a designated range for launching these rockets, and it's a very substantial area. But as I said before, each launch, what happens is it narrows down to the flight of the rocket and stuff. So we try to minimize our footprint out there during the launch as much as possible, so we don't we don't take up the whole East Coast there, but we narrow it down, and that way everybody can enjoy the water, get out there, and make it safe for everybody.
Cool. Well, that's a very valuable job y'all do out there, and you've been doing it around the Space Coast forever, I think.
Yeah, it's been going on forever. We've had our ups and downs with personnel, but we've definitely the partnership between the Air Force and the Coast Guard here has been outstanding, and with SpaceX and some of these other folks coming into the mix, doesn't look like our rocket support is going to slow down any.
That's great to hear.
Right.
Great to hear for the Space Coast too, and the economy in the Space Coast.
For sure.
Right.
Separate subject. You mentioned earlier about safety boardings. What's that all about?
Well, it's what it is basically we call it a recreational boarding. We'll stop recreational vessels periodically and just make sure they have proper safety equipment on board that is required for a boat of their size. We go down a checklist and just basically educate the boater on what they need to have on board.
You write tickets if they're not in compliance?
Right. Well, it's not really a tickle. It could end up being a civil penalty. Most of the time with the recreational boarding, what will happen is the once the boarding is sent in, then it goes to a review officer, and they look over it, and then they will send a notice of violation or whatever to the member or to the person that the boat we were on. And usually what will happen is there will be a recommendation on, hey, if you can send us a receipt that you bought life jackets or that your flares were expired and you got new flares. There's not a whole lot of violations as far as civil penalties. Our penalties are a civil penalty, not a criminal penalty on most recreational boarding. So usually it's hey, make sure you got this thing fixed so it'll make our job easier when we have to come find you.
Okay, that's great. I guess just as a follow-up, is there any particular behavior you observe or anything that draws you to do that recreational boarding?
It depends on what we're targeting. Sometimes if we're out there and we're looking to maybe there's a fisheries closure or something, so we may look for vessels that are targeting fish, or you see them with some fishing poles, you might check them, make sure they got their proper licenses, and then go through the safety checks. But overall, it's just random. We actually just you might just be passing the Coast Guard boat, and we pull you over, and like I said, 90% of the time, all it is a safety check. We want to make sure you got the proper equipment on board for your safety as well as making our job easier when we go out to if you do have an
Sure,
emergency.
of course. And I want to get a shout out to your XO, Commander Marshburn, because he showed up and gave a briefing to the Military Affairs Council, our meeting last Wednesday, and shared some of the statistics you just did on the radio here. But I have a question regarding the cruise boats. Obviously, they were in the news here lately with that one in the Gulf that had gone. He was without power, which has got to be a challenging situation for them. But I think it's awesome that the news media actually focused on the fact the Coast Guard, you guys were out there and supporting getting that boat back into dock. When you do those boardings or inspections here locally, what all does that entail?
Actually, the inspections in the aboard the cruise ships are conducted by our Marine Safety Detachment, who is the Lieutenant Steve Elliott is in charge of that little branch that's on board, and those guys go on and they go through everything on that ship as far as, you see the lifeboats hanging on the side. They make sure that the crew is trained in how to lower and raise the lifeboats, how to run lifeboats, and they actually conduct emergency drills with the crews on there when they conduct these full inspections of cruise ships.
And that's the boats leaving from Port Canaveral. And I imagine all of your other bases across the country that have cruise liners do the same activity, right?
Oh yeah, it's all over. And sometimes if you happen to be down in the port and you see those lifeboats running around the port, 9 times out of 10 it's not going to be an actual emergency. What it is they're actually being inspected by Coast Guard inspectors. You'll see them, maybe once every other month or something. You'll see a different cruise ship that is due for an inspection, and when you see those safety boats or those lifeboats in the water going around, that's what's going on. They're going through their drills, their emergency drills that they're required to do.
Well, folks, the commander's always bringing you more information about all the things the Coast Guard does to protect you. I mean, even these recreational boardings are to protect you. You don't want to be caught out there needing a flare sometime and find out that puppy doesn't work.
Right. That's exactly right. So, yeah, we also had a really interesting operation we just conducted with Station 4 Pierce, which is our sister station that's south of us.
Tell us about it.
We went down and did a coordinated operation with Station 4 Pierce, all the local agencies in the area, FBI. We had ships patrolling between the Bahamas. We went down there to target. It's an area that's not that well covered just because of the location. It's pretty much in between Station Port Canaveral and Station 4 Pierce. So we went down there to just get some visibility down there and let the folks know that, hey, we haven't forgot about you. We're down here. And the unfortunate thing about it is we ran into some crappy weather. We were down there and spent about 8 hours off the coast of Sebastian Inlet, and I think we stopped maybe 15 boats, and everybody was doing the right thing, had the right equipment, and the operation was a success as far as us getting down and getting visible in the area.
How big a crew for that exercise?
Altogether, it was probably close to, I say with all the agencies involved, there could have been close to 100.
Wow.
That we had at one, at different times. It was a 3-day operation.
Demonstrates that you work well and play well with others. You all came together.
Right. It was kind of like, because you got to remember right there is our sector changeover too. So it was between Sector Jacksonville, Captain of the Port, and Sector Miami, Captain of the Port. So just being able to work with the communications with both sides of the fence there, and that's kind of like we called it the goal line there because it separated the two sectors. So it was actually a pretty good drill with, just like you said there, with the communications and coordination between local, federal, state, and everything went great.
Outstanding. Commander, can you share with the listeners a website that they can go to and learn more about not only your mission but the Coast Guard's mission in general?
Oh yeah, go to USCG.mil. There's some really good stuff on there. They just posted the 2013 State of the Coast Guard address from the Commandant Admiral Papp. So if you want to read a little bit about the State of the Coast Guard address, that's listed on there. A couple other stories of some outstanding Coast Guardsmen and women that have been recognized. Also, if you're interested in some of those safety things on your boat that we just talked about,
sure,
go to cgaux.org, and there's the Coast Guard Auxiliary has a website there that you can go in. You can find all this equipment details that you need on your boat, and also what I would suggest is you go on there and you can search the closest safety course that the auxiliary gives, and
great point.
Sign up for a safety course, get out there, and they do a great job at helping us with getting the word out on what kind of equipment you need and how to operate your boat, and even some first aid and things like that.
Awesome. Commander, thank you so much for joining us on American Warrior Radio. I know you were at an event earlier this morning, one of your children's sporting events, and you got a busy day ahead of you. Sir, again, thank you so much for sharing time with us.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I just want to, I want to do a shout out to the Merritt Island Little League. It was a great event this morning. All the kids showed up out there. It was a little chilly, but
Yeah.
it was a little chilly. We had Merritt Island High School baseball players came out to give these kids a good words of advice for playing baseball, and it was a lot of fun. So, go Yankees. That's my son's team. So we got a game here in about an hour or so. So thank you very
Awesome.
much for having me on.
You bet, sir. We'll be talking to you down the road.
Thanks.
Again, folks, that is your commander, Coast Guard Station Port Canaveral, Commander B. Perry, sharing his bosun's call with you. He appears, or one of his colleagues appear regularly on American Warrior Radio, so stay tuned for that. But Glenn, those web addresses again.
USCG.mil. I would.
Well, U.S. Coast Guard, USCG.mil.
Yeah.
Lots of great information, and he mentioned that you can learn about boating safety and the courses available from going to...
At cgaux.org, and that's their auxiliary website, cgaux.org.
So you want to check that out, and always listen to American Warrior Radio. And you know what? If you like what you hear, let the station know, let the Coast Guard know that you heard them on American Warrior Radio, because you're not going to get this information anywhere else.
That's right. I mean, this is insights for me for sure, so if it's for me, it must be for you too, about all the things the Coast Guard does. And the operations are going on a daily basis, and as I said before, to repeat myself, and this is all to protect you and us.
That's a great point. They're not out there just to...
harass people.
Yeah, exactly. They're there to make sure that everybody's safe, and that... Because he just mentioned 2 or 3 times in that interview how choppy the water was for the Coast Guard.
Exactly, and they're in a 45-foot boat or something.
It's a big
usually
boat.
something bigger than what you're in. And
Exactly, and their boats are self-righting. They can actually capsize and come back around. I doubt any other people's boats out there will do that.
Yeah, they probably have some flotation in their build design that you may not have on your boat.
Yeah, so if the Coast Guard says there's heavy waves, then you better pay attention.
I would stay away.
And check out uscg.mil for sure. And for boating safety courses, cgaux.org, like Glenn said. Want to get a couple things in, folks. We are going to cover some pertinent topics, and the big topic we're going to cover after the break is the...
reasons to hire veterans, and I promised to bring that to you last week, and so instead of making you wait 3 weeks like we normally do when we promise to bring something back, we're going to bring it back to you today.
That's right. I want to touch on a few subjects, though, because there's a lot going on. There always is here on the Space Coast. But today, in the city of Cocoa, at Cocoa Village, AVET Project is there. We've got a booth set up at their craft fair. Goes on today and tomorrow. We walked through there this morning after doing our setup. There's some fabulous stuff that people have made. Okay, this isn't stuff they bought and brought in from China. These are handcrafted items. AVET Project is there. We've got some beautiful wood carvings. We've got a tablecloth that you can stop by and sign for free. That when it's filled up, we fold it up, put it in our EEB, our care package, and ship it over to the troops. They love getting those messages. So check us out today and tomorrow at Cocoa Village. Just find the AVET Project booth, stop by and say hello. And a lot going on. I wanted to touch real quick on something that's near and dear to our hearts, because it is
Free
Space Coast Community Law School, a project of the Brevard Bar Foundation. We all know Britta Hawkins. She's the gal that heads this whole thing up. She's also an attorney, she's a partner with Telfer, Faraday, Anderson, and Hawkins. They're in Titusville. You can reach them at 321-269-6833. That's 269-6833. But I want to talk to you about the free legal seminars. The semester has begun. All right, this is informational classes, but Glenn, we already covered, what did they cover last week?
They covered divorce at any age, and coming up, and Garen and I are going to attend this next one, is the aid and attendance for veterans benefits for medical expenses, everything that's associated with that benefit. It's actually part of the pension program that the VA has, known on the street now as the Aid and Attendance Program. It's a way of getting financial help from the VA to help people stay in places like an assisted living facility that they might not otherwise be able to afford. It does have some income and asset limitations to it, but learning anywhere you can go learn about this program is wonderful. And of course, our office provides free, absolutely free service to do these claims for this aid and attendance. And you can find us out in the County Government Center, Bravo Building, that's B Building, on the first floor, Suite 102, or just follow the signs on the wall.
Lots of signs.
Yeah, and you can call us at 633-2012, or if you're out of the area, like Barefoot Bay, which is still in our county, 321-633-2012.
And you field calls from as far away as Indiana. So, folks,
Yeah,
if you're listening to American Warrior Radio on the internet, easy to get to, 1300WMEL.com. You can listen live to American Warrior Radio. You click on the Archives tab, and John O'Hara, one of the engineers, updates it with titles as to what the episode's about. Just click on Archives. You can listen to past episodes, but we encourage you to spread the word no matter where you're at in the United States, whether you're in Indiana, Oregon, which we're going to talk about in the second half of the program, Texas, wherever you're at. Check it out live online, 1300WMEL.com. Hey, I don't care if you're in Afghanistan. You want to get the nuts and bolts of what's going on in the veteran and military community? American Warrior Radio, 1300WMEL.com.
That's right.
Which we are helping the Space Coast Community Law School. We're a promotional sponsor as well as AM 1300 WMEL is. So like Glenn said, already covered Divorce at Any Age. This coming Thursday, that's March 7th, from 6 to 8 p.m., Aid and Attendance, a veteran's benefit for medical expenses. Most of these courses are either put on by an attorney or a judge, somebody in the know, and we encourage you to check this out. It's easy to register. I'm going to give you a quick, get your pen out, please. www.sccls, that stands for Space Coast Community Law School, sccls.com. I want you to register. Okay, I'll give you the phone number again, 321-269-6833. If you register, then they know how many people are coming. They give you a beautiful binder. They give you notes to put in your binder depending on how many classes you attend. It's so well done. You're gonna have a great time. Folks, we're running out of time here. Check out Space Coast Community Law School, all right, sccls.com. Stick with us on American Warrior Radio. We'll be right back speaking about reasons to hire veterans. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.